The grand chamber of the United Galactic Council stretched wide and tall like a cathedral made of starlight. Hundreds of alien species filled the tiered seats, their eyes and sensors focused on the center stage. This was where wars were declared, peace treaties signed, and punishments delivered to dying civilizations. Today's agenda was different. Today, they had come to Laugh Dot in the middle of the chamber. A large hologram spun slowly. It showed Earth's fleet its proudest warships. A dozen small, aging cruisers. 2 battleships barely holding together with armored patches. 1 old carrier that still ran on fusion power. No stealth coating. No hyperspectral jammers. No void. Pulse cannons. Just steel and grit. A tall, insectoid being named Jirok clicked its mandibles, then addressed the council in a voice that echoed with sarcasm. Honorable members of the galaxy ... I present to you the Terran Defense Fleet, the last line of Earth's planetary security. The chamber erupted in noise, laughter. It wasn't just chuckles. It was howling, cackling, screeching noise from hundreds of species. Even the cold-blooded. Yelrith, who hadn't smiled in over 600 years, let out a snort. Is that a combustion engine? 1 alien wheezed, pointing to an old Terran destroyer. Those things wouldn't last 2 minutes in a plasma field. Someone shouted from above. They still used manual aiming. I saw a man turning a turret with his hands. A screen flashed. A human pilot inside a fighter cockpit, slapping his console to make it work. The laughter doubled. Even some translators glitched, unable to keep up with the mocking tone of so many languages. But in the back of the chamber, 1 figure did not. Laugh. He was human. Admiral Cade Vereen, dressed in an old Earth Navy coat, eyes cold as the dark between stars. He sat alone. No guards, no aides. Just a man who had seen too many wars and survived all of them. A junior officer leaned close to him and whispered, "Sir, should we respond?" Cade didn't blink. His voice was quiet, almost emotionless. "No, let them laugh. But they don't know what we've built. What we've hidden." The officer hesitated. "You mean Project JÖRMUNGANDR?" Cade turned slowly. Toward him, they mock our ships. They point at Rust and call us weak, but they haven't seen the serpent in the deep. He stood and left the chamber. Behind him, the laughter continued. But far, far away from the orbit of Saturn something, old and forgotten, began to stir. The chamber session ended with mock votes and fake proposals. 1 alien suggested Earth be required to paint outdated on every ship hull. Another suggested converting Terran warships into museum exhibits. No one objected. Outside the chamber, journalists swarmed for reactions. Alien media buzzed with excitement. Earth's fleets, relics of the past? Terrans unfit for galactic defense? Experts agree. Earth wouldn't survive a 3-day war. No human interviews were aired. None were requested. Back on Earth, people watched the broadcast in silence. Some were angry, some embarrassed. Most were just tired. For years, Earth had been seen as the little brother of the galaxy. Too loud, too poor, too primitive. Beneath the surface of Saturn's moon Enceladus, a black site facility had just received a signal. Alert level. Omega Project JÖRMUNGANDR status. Pre-activation in the cold hangars. Under kilometers of ice and rock lay something massive. It looked like a ship, but wasn't. It looked alive, but wasn't. It had no crew, no bridge, no windows. Just armor the color of death and a heart that hadn't beat in a century. It was Earth's secret, their answer to the galaxy's arrogance. And it had been built from the remains of Forbidden's tech. Weapon fragments recovered from the ruins of dead galaxies. Dark matter cores stabilized by human scientists. A mind grown not from programming, but from whispers of lost AI gods. Its name was ancient JÖRMUNGANDR, and it was almost ready to wake up. 3 days after the Galactic Council session, the Zarkali Empire invaded the Terran colony of GENOS-3. They didn't even declare war. A fleet of 6 cruisers and 1 carrier dropped out of hyperspace and began bombing surface defenses. Civilians screamed as buildings collapsed. Shields failed. Orbital stations turned to fireballs. Earth sent a signal to the Council, requesting defense assistance. GENOS-3 is under attack. No one answered. The Terran fleets were still days away. The aliens laughed again. What will they send? Their flying scrap piles? But then, something changed. A black spot appeared in the GENOS-3 orbit. Not a ship, not a signal, just absence. Sensors couldn't detect it. Radar passed through it. Thermal scanners showed nothing. Even the stars behind it looked wrong, bent like they were afraid. The Zarkali cruiser Kothrex fired at it. The beam vanished halfway. Then, Kothrex vanished to. No explosion. No debris. Just gone. The alien commander shouted, "Pull back." Pull. His ship folded inward like paper. Gone. Panic erupted. The carrier launched escape pods. Every pod disappeared one by one. In 31 seconds. The entire Zarkali fleet ceased to exist. And then, a sound echoed across space. A whisper. In every ship, on every planet, every station tuned to the GENOS sector. A deep, growling voice. The void remembers. JÖRMUNGANDR has returned. Back on Earth, Admiral Cade stood in front of a silent crowd of officers. He pointed to the space map. The Council won't help us. The galaxy has turned against us. But they have made one mistake. He pressed a button. A hologram of a massive serpentine warship appeared. Its body curved like a dragon of old. Its weapons were not cannons or missiles. They were tears in reality. Its engines had no flame. They consumed silence. This is our answer. A young officer swallowed. Sir, they said it was too dangerous, that even we couldn't control it. Cade's voice was firm. They're right. He looked out the window toward the stars. But it doesn't matter anymore. The Council received a message. One line. Activate Treaty Code Omega-9. Earth has deployed a Void-class entity. Panic spread faster than light. Alliances scrambled. Fleets repositioned. Warnings were issued. And then silence. JÖRMUNGANDR didn't move like a ship. It flowed. It didn't broadcast. It whispered. And it didn't fight battles. It ended them. Somewhere in a hidden archive, an old alien war scholar read a forbidden scroll. He dropped his mug. No, it can't be. He read the ancient prophecy aloud. When the laughter of stars echoes too loud, the great serpent shall rise. Not to defend, not to speak, but to silence. And so the galaxy laughed. But Earth did not, because it knew what it had created. And now the galaxy would remember. Not Earth's old ships, not their jokes or failures, but the name of one forgotten monster, JÖRMUNGANDR. No one knew it was still alive. Beneath the frozen surface of Enceladus, Saturn's icy moon, there was a place not marked on any chart. It wasn't built by governments or funded by defense treaties. It was built by whispers, by secret orders, dark budgets, and engineers who were never allowed to leave once they arrived. But it was called the Deep Yard. To the outside world, it was just an abandoned ice mining station, shut down 50 years ago. But far below the surface, beneath 50 kilometers of cracked ice and frozen rock, was a hangar large enough to fit a mountain. There, it slept, JÖRMUNGANDR. For 70 years, the ship had been frozen in silence. No lights, no movement. Number. Heat. Just a giant metallic serpent wrapped around a gravity core that pulsed once every 10 seconds, like the slow heartbeat of a sleeping god. Until now. Hook, first 5 to 7 minutes. Technician Alec Novar stood outside Hangar Gate 0, holding a trembling data pad. The warning message had come through just seconds ago, bright red across every screen in the station. Activation code, level Omega. That code had never been used before, not even in simulations. Behind him, steel doors 200 meters tall began to rumble. The air vibrated. Lights flickered. Systems reinitialized. Dust fell from the ceiling like rain. Alec had worked here for 12 years. He had repaired coils, tested shielding, cleaned outer armor with drones. He knew every bolt of the facility. But he had never seen the ship move until now. The Serpent stirred. The armor shifted like muscle. And deep within, a voice echoed not through speakers, but directly into his mind. It is time. Alec dropped to his knees. The deep yard had awakened. Admiral Cade Vereen stood aboard a command deck orbiting Earth, staring at the hologram of JÖRMUNGANDR's current status. Still buried? He asked. The officer beside him nodded. Beads of sweat on his forehead. Sir, the ship's core is fully charged. But the containment systems, they're under strain. Power levels are surging beyond predicted values. Cade narrowed his eyes. It's remembering. The officer blinked. Remembering? Cade didn't answer. Instead, he pulled up a black file one even the Council never saw. Project. Leviathan classified under 12 layers of encryption. This file held the truth. JÖRMUNGANDR was not just Earth's last weapon. It was Earth's first step into forbidden science. It had been built using the remains of Zereth war tech, recovered from the battlefield of the Black War, a war so violent that even time records had been erased. The pieces had been found drifting in a rogue star's orbit. No one knew what they were at first. Metal that healed itself, systems that responded to fear, weapons that obeyed emotion. JÖRMUNGANDR was never supposed to be turned on, only completed. Cade whispered to himself, let's hope the thing still remembers who built it. Back on Enceladus, lights snapped on one by one as JÖRMUNGANDR fully powered up. The old engineers who still lived there, silent, gray, half-forgotten people gathered in the control room, watching the giant shape unfold. No engines lit. No weapons activated. But the pressure in the air changed. It felt like being watched by something ancient. One of the senior engineers turned to Alec. Do you hear it? He nodded. It's speaking without sound. JÖRMUNGANDR's I wasn't artificial in the traditional sense. It didn't use code alone. It had memories, echoes of its creators, personality fragments. It could learn. Yes, but it could also feel. Not like a person, but like something more primal. It had been designed with one purpose: to end what cannot be reasoned with. And now, it was trying to understand who needed to be ended. The Galactic Council still didn't take it seriously. Even after the Zarkali fleet disappeared at Genos 3, many aliens said it was a Terran trick. They claimed it was a black hole weapon. Some said it was fake news. They hadn't seen the footage. They hadn't heard the whisper. But one species had. Talaria, race older than most stars, sat in silence in their crystal tower, watching old records. Their leader, High Listener Mava Thul, played a classified file from 90 years ago. A single audio clip. No image, just a voice. The cycle ends with silence. I awakened to finish it. He closed the file and looked to his advisor. It's the same voice. From the ruins of the Black War, Earth has rebuilt the Serpent of Ending. His advisor trembled. What should we do? Mavathal's words were simple. Nothing. If we move, we die. At Earth Command, Admiral Cade gave the final order. Unseal the deep yard. Prepare for launch. A ship of that size couldn't exit through normal means. But JÖRMUNGANDR didn't move like other ships. It didn't rise. It vanished. From Enceladus to deep space in a single blink. Across the solar system, long-range sensors failed. Gravity rippled. Communication arrays snapped offline. Saturn's rings shifted for 1 second, then realigned, and when they returned to normal, JÖRMUNGANDR was gone. Not gone like lost. Gone like never meant to be found. In the deep void. Between stars, where light takes centuries to travel, the ship floated. But to JÖRMUNGANDR, distance was meaningless. It chose where it wished to be, and now it was watching. From behind cloaked vision, it observed alien fleets gathering near Terran. Space. Dozens of ships from the Council. Dreadnoughts, interceptors, carriers. They weren't here to fight. They were here to warn. To demand Earth shut down whatever weapon it had unleashed. One of the alien admirals transmitted a message to Earth. Deactivate the anomaly, or the Council will respond with force. Back on Earth, Admiral Cade stared at the screen and gave a single reply. It's not ours to control anymore. The signal ended, and in that moment, the fleets knew fear. They began scanning space for something they couldn't see. But JÖRMUNGANDR didn't show up on scans. It showed up only when it was too late. The forgotten shipyard of Enceladus was silent again. Dust floated. Lights dimmed. The engineers walked away from the viewing window, knowing their life's work had now moved beyond them. Alex stood there longer, eyes still wide. He felt different, like something had looked through him, inside him, and left something behind, in the farthest corner of the galaxy, where darkness ruled. A slumbering entity blinked. It felt a ripple. A predator had moved, one it hadn't felt since the Black War, and it was human. The creature stirred. For the first time in 10,000 years, the serpent's awakening had started a chain. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but silence was coming, and it was shaped like a ship, named after the end of gods. JÖRMUNGANDR. The colony of Vega 6 wasn't important. That's what the Galactic Council always said. It had no rare minerals, no weapon factories, no ancient ruins. Just a small Terran research outpost, a few thousand colonists, and a weak defense grid. But the aliens attacked anyway, without warning, without mercy. 6 starships of the Crexian war clans arrived in orbit on a silent jump, cloaked behind solar winds and static fields. They didn't send a message. They didn't demand surrender. They simply began to fire. Plasma rained down across the sky like a burning storm. Power plants exploded. Ground defenses blinked out in seconds. Civilians ran, screaming. Children hid in storm shelters. Scientists sent emergency signals into Deep Space. Earth Command received the distress call 6 minutes later, but they already knew. Because JÖRMUNGANDR had already changed course. Hook, first 5 to 7 minutes, inside the command tower of Vega 6. Dr. Elira Monroe stood at the observation deck, watching the skies burn. Her hands shook as red clouds boiled with fire. The station trembled as another blast ripped through the colony walls. We have no defense. Someone whispered behind her. They're not even responding to hails. They're here to destroy, not conquer. Elira tried sending another signal. Mayday, Mayday. This is Vega 6. We are under attack by unknown Crexian forces. No warning, no contact. Civilian colony repeat. Civilian colony. Then the screen went black. All systems failed. Emergency lights glowed dim red. The colony's last defense generator overloaded and collapsed. They were alone. No help would come in time. Unless. IRA turned toward her assistant. Did the signal to Earth go through? Yes, he whispered. But they said. Something was already moving. In deep space, where no system could scan, JÖRMUNGANDR drifted like a ghost. No light, no heat, no signal. But inside, it was fully awake. And angry. The AI core pulsed with emotion raw, simple, and ancient. Protect, punish, silence. From its position, the ship observed Vega 6. It saw the plasma impacts, the falling structures, the screams. It didn't understand fear the way humans did, but it understood threat. And in a ripple that bent the stars, it moved. On board the Crexian flagship Breaktor, Commander Kurak growled in amusement. These humans are insects. Their colonies fall like dry leaves. A junior officer snarled. No retaliation. No ships detected. It's just as we predicted. Another officer spoke, unsure. But there was a signal. Before the blackout, something ... strange. Kurak snorted. Let them beg. Earth's fleets are jokes. Their ships are rotting steel. Their tech is 50 years behind. And then the lights on the bridge flickered. The ship's gravity shifted. Long, low hum vibrated through the thin walls. Not an alarm, not something deeper. Something alive, ... Then came the whisper. This colony is under my protection. Every Crexian on the bridge froze. The voice hadn't come from a speaker, ... It had entered there. Minds. The junior officer screamed. It's here. Something's outside. Kurak roared. Shields up. Fire on any contact. But it was too late. Outside the ship, space warped. Not like a jump. Not like a teleport, that it peeled open like the galaxy had torn a hole. In itself. From within that tier came something massive. At first, it looked like a shadow, stretching wide, coiling in silence. Then the armor shimmered, dark gray with streaks of crimson pulses running through like veins. The front was shaped like a spearhead, with coils behind it like a serpent made of metal and wrath. No visible engines. No quartz. No turrets. No wings. Just presence. The Crexians panicked. Target it. Lock weapons. It's not on radar. We can't get a fix. The Breaktor fired a direct hit with its primary cannon. A core pulse laser, enough to cut through a dreadnought in one shot. The beam struck JÖRMUNGANDR and vanished. No impact. No shield reaction. Just nothing. As if the ship had eaten the energy. And then JÖRMUNGANDR responded. One long tendril of black light uncoiled from its underbelly. Silence, slow, precise. It touched the Breaktor. The Crexian flagship folded. Not exploded. Folded. Its front half turned inward, crumpling like paper. Then its engines vanished, followed by the rest of the ship collapsing into itself until nothing remained but silence. The Crexian fleet broke formation in panic. 3 ships turned to escape. 1 tried to cloak. Another launched all remaining torpedoes in desperation. None survived. JÖRMUNGANDR didn't fire again. It just moved, like a snake in water, slipping through space. And wherever it turned, the Crexian ships vanished. Like lights being turned off. In under 1 minute, the entire fleet was gone. Not a single trace. Back on Vega 6, Dr. Alira stared at the sky. The fire had stopped. The air was still. Then a shape passed, overhead so massive it blacked out the sun. No sound. No roar of engines. Just the feeling of something ancient and watching. And then a message appeared on every still working screen, spoken in a voice she didn't recognize. This colony is safe, but the galaxy has forgotten fear. I will remind them. She whispered. The name she had only heard once before. JÖRMUNGANDR. At Earth Command, Admiral Cadvarine watched the report from Vega-6. Confirmed, his officer said. Crexian forces eliminated. No human casualties. Another officer added, colony systems partially restored. Survivors reporting sightings of a massive serpent-like ship. They all heard a voice. Cade nodded. That's enough. Scientist leaned forward. Admiral, the AI. It's acting outside expected parameters. It chose to engage without orders. Cade spoke coldly. It made the right choice. But it's not supposed to decide on its own. Cade turned too. Face him. It always could. We just never tested it. The room fell silent. For the first time, Earth had something the galaxy couldn't predict. Not a fleet, not a weapon, but a myth dot in a far sector. Alien intelligence centers received terrifying fragments. Crexian fleet lost at Vega 6. No distress. Calls. No debris. Last transmission. Audio fragment of an unknown voice. Many thought it was human propaganda. Others knew better. One alien commander on a nearby outpost wrote a final message to his superiors. We mocked Earth for their weak fleets, but they have awakened something we buried long ago. If it is truly the Serpent of Silence, then nothing is safe. Not even us, and in the void. JÖRMUNGANDR drifted again, not sleeping, not waiting, not just watching. It's I recorded everything. Faces, ships, reactions. Fear. It remembered the laughter from the council, and it planned to visit them soon. The disappearance of the Crexian fleet shook the galaxy. Officially, no one blamed Earth. Unofficially, everyone knew. The council called it a malfunction. They said the Crexian ships suffered quantum detonation, but the files were locked. The radar logs were missing, and all communication records from Vega 6 had been scrambled beyond recovery. Still, rumors spread. Ships didn't just vanish like that. Not only one thing ever had that power, and it wasn't supposed to exist anymore. Commander Ruthen Val of the Zaraki Recon Division stared at the empty space where the Crexian fleet used to be. He was aboard a stealth frigate, hidden in the outer orbit of Vega 6. His mission was simple: observe Earth's response to the invasion. Gather data. Analyze. Then vanish without being seen. But what he saw had left him cold. 30 seconds of nothing. No energy blasts. No missile trails. No explosions. Just a ripple of space. A single shadow. And then silence. Now he sat in the darkened bridge of his cloaked ship, barely breathing. Sir, his sensor tech whispered. We still don't detect anything. No engine trails, no ship ID, nothing. Replay the visual log again, Ruthen ordered. They played. The footage. Same result. A massive shape, coiling in from nothing. No lights, no noise. Just pressure like space itself was bending under its weight. And then, the Crexian ships began to fold. Not explode, not vaporize. Just disappear. Ruthen rubbed his eyes. He'd seen weapons of all kinds in his career. Plasma waves, neutron storms, gravity drills. But this was impossible. He opened a secure file labeled Black History. Inside were stories banned by the Council, forgotten battles, ancient monsters, classified encounters, and one name appeared more than once: JÖRMUNGANDR, back at the Galactic Council headquarters. Emergency meetings were called. Species who had once mocked Earth now sent urgent requests for information. One ambassador said, "We demand a list of Earth's active warships." Another said, "We request proof that Earth did not use Forbidden's technology." The Earth representative, a quiet man named Director Harrow, simply smiled. "We haven't attacked anyone," he said calmly. "But perhaps you should ask." "What?" "Attacked the Crexians. You're saying it wasn't your ship." A Lorcan diplomat growled. "I'm saying we didn't fire a shot." The chamber fell into whispers. The council speaker raised his hand. "Enough. We will send an elite recon squad to investigate. Until we know what destroyed those ships, Earth will remain under surveillance." The Nightshade Squadron was the best the council had. 7 recon cruisers, cloaked with void light fields, armed with particle slingers and hyperscan arrays, each one flown by veterans who had seen war across galaxies. They arrived at the edge of the Vega system in silence. Their job was simple. Locate the anomaly, scan it, return. What they didn't know was that they were being watched the moment they entered the system. JÖRMUNGANDR drifted in the void nearby, completely silent. It didn't move. It listened. And when the first recon ship activated a long-range scan beam, JÖRMUNGANDR responded. Not with weapons. But with absence. Ship 1 vanished. No alarm. No flash. Just ... gone. Ship 2 screamed overcomes. Something took Talai 3. No explosion. Just vanished from the grid. Ship 3 turned to retreat, but its engines died instantly. Artificial gravity reversed. The crew's bodies began to float, and then fold inward, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Ship 4 tried to launch a probe. The probe never left the ship. It dissolved mid-launch, turning into a string of red light and vanishing into space like mist. Commander Ferox of the Nightshade, the lead ship, activated a priority distress call. Unknown entity is hostile. Repeat, unknown entity is. That was the last thing he ever said. His ship was erased, not attacked, not destroyed. Erased. Back at Council HQ. The Fleet Command Center went silent. As the Nightshade Squadron disappeared from all channels, they checked every relay, every beacon. Nothing. Just static. And then a voice echoed in the deepest sensor channels, even scrambled, even encoded. Everyone recognized it. You sent eyes into my dark. I removed them. Panic erupted. Some ambassadors shouted. Some ran. One old alien commander slammed his hand on the table. Shut it down. We must call a crisis code. But the speaker was frozen, because he remembered. He remembered the stories. Hundreds of years ago, during the Black War, a race of machines had almost wiped out 10 civilizations. Their leader was unknown. Their origin forgotten. But one machine, one ship, had been mentioned in all survivor reports. A shadow-serpent. A war god. Something that ended fleets without firing. It had been lost after the final battle, near a dying black star. The Council thought it had been destroyed. But now ... it was back, and it was angry. Admiral Cade Varine stood alone in Earth's orbital command station. Staring at the dark void of space. His officers rushed to and from consoles, reporting news from Vega 6, from the Council, from border patrols. But Cade said nothing. He had expected retaliation. He had expected fear, but he hadn't expected vanishing. Is JÖRMUNGANDR still following our directives? One officer asked quietly. Cade replied slowly, No, it's operating on instinct now. What does that mean, sir? It means... Cade looked toward the stars. It has decided who the enemy is. Meanwhile, the Talare species, ancient and wise, gathered their elders in silence. High listener Mavathal stood in front of the starlit archives, whispering ancient warnings. He read aloud from a forgotten scroll. The serpent awakens not to serve, but to finish what was left undone. When fleets go silent and enemies vanish, do not chase the dark, for the dark is watching. His advisors trembled. What can we do? Mavathal said nothing, because he knew the truth. There was nothing they could do. In deep space, JÖRMUNGANDR pulsed again. Its eye core scanned systems across the galaxy. It didn't think like a human. It didn't need sleep, didn't feel time. But it remembered every fleet that mocked Earth, every species that stood by when colonies burned, every name that laughed. And now it hunted in silence. Not to conquer, but to erase. They had seen many ships, sleek ships, heavy ships, fast ones, monstrous ones, but none of them carried a name that made hardened admirals freeze. Not until now. Admiral Krex of the Dominion Empire stood inside his command chamber, his many eyes blinking rapidly as a single report played on loop. Human fleet approaching. Leading ship designation, JÖRMUNGANDR. The voice of his scout captain trembled, as if even speaking the name invited doom. Krex paused the video, eyes narrowing. What is this beast? No one answered. Not his aides. Not his war officers. They all stared at the hologram of the massive human ship moving silently through the dead zone of Sector 9. On the far side of that void, the JÖRMUNGANDR moved. It made no sound. It showed no heat signatures. But it was coming. On board, Commander Ilara Rowe stood in silence, staring at the display screen. The galaxy had mocked Earth, laughed at its old ships, ignored its cries for peace. But that was before humanity remembered. Something older than strategy, older than mercy. They remembered vengeance, and JÖRMUNGANDR was built for that. I want scans active every 5 seconds, Ilara ordered, and cloak running at 30%. We want them to know we're here, but not. How close? Her crew nodded. No one spoke out of turn. No one questioned orders. Because every single soul on board knew they were riding into the jaws of the galaxy's most powerful empires with only one mission: to make them regret ever underestimating Earth. In the diplomatic halls of the Zytel Accord, chaos reigned. Ambassadors argued, shouted, and threw datapads across tables. It's a bluff. No, the Dominion confirmed it. The humans launched the JÖRMUNGANDR. I thought it was only a myth. The last time they tested that engine, a move went missing. One ambassador whispered. They named it after an ancient Earth serpent, the one that coils around their world, waiting to crush it. Silence followed, and a screen lit up. A transmission from an anonymous source. Just static, and then a voice. We are coming. You won't hear the first shot, but you'll remember the last. Aboard the Dominance, Admiral Krex finally understood. Fear. His fleet was the largest in the sector. Hundreds of cruisers, destroyers, carriers, but the long-range scans now showed only one object approaching, and its silhouette didn't match any class in their database. Too long, too wide. The hull, twisted, layered with unknown alloys. And then came the energy reading off, the charts. Impossible. No reactor in the quadrant could sustain such power. Except the JÖRMUNGANDR could. Should we call for reinforcements? Asked one of his officers. Krex didn't answer. He watched as the behemoth ship slowed, right outside his sensor range. Waiting, a message appeared on screen. Your fleet laughed at Earth's last chance. Now we laugh back. Then the transmission cut, and one of the Dominion's ships simply disappeared. No explosion. No trace. Gone. The crew fell silent. Back on Earth. The few who knew of the operation watched in silence. An old general, long retired, leaned back and whispered. They called us relics. They called our ships jokes. But they forgot. We never play fair. The human fleet had not followed protocol. It had not used standard weapons. It had done something worse. It had unleashed JÖRMUNGANDR, Earth's answer to mockery. In the void. The stars blinked. And the serpent stirred. JÖRMUNGANDR moved again, its body dark, stretching like an ancient creature of myth. And this time, it didn't fire. It simply opened its front bay, revealing something even worse. The thing the galaxy had never imagined. A second ship, smaller, sleeker, faster, but bearing the same symbol on its side, the mark of Earth's wrath. They've got another one, Krex whispered, stumbling backward. Ilara's voice echoed through every frequency. You should have left Earth alone. Then she gave the command, fire. And the first system in Dominion space went dark. Forever. The stars above Elter 9 shimmered quietly. Too quietly for a system that was once a hub of interstellar traffic. Trade routes had vanished. Beacon relays had gone silent. And now, the entire sector held its breath. Captain Lynn Varric stood on the observation deck of the dreadnought JÖRMUNGANDR, watching the void. She didn't blink, not even when a sensor. Ping trembled in the silence. "We've got movement." Her XO whispered dot she already knew. For 2 weeks, the JÖRMUNGANDR had remained cloaked and dormant, hidden among the frozen wreckage of ancient satellites orbiting Elter 9. A trap. Set with Earth's coldest patience, the Galactic Coalition still believed the humans were licking their wounds. That Earth's retaliation was slow, weak, predictable. That assumption was about to become the biggest mistake in galactic military history. "Power up," Varric ordered. Her voice echoed through the command deck. Calm. Absolute. Below the deck, the engineers barely moved. Each had rehearsed this moment 100 times. The JÖRMUNGANDR's graviton heart began to pulse, silent. At first, then louder. It was not a hum. It was a growl from something ancient and unkind. Its weapons arrays unfolded like wings of a metal dragon, exposing anti-fleet railguns, Nova torpedoes, and a classified weapon Earth hadn't dared use until now. Enemy fleet. Entering the outer orbit, the helmsman reported. 11 ships, 2 dreadnoughts, 1 carrier. "They still think we're dead," Varric said, cracking a small, cold smile. The enemy ships deployed in a standard suppression formation. It was insultingly simple, clearly meant for pirates or leftover rebel cells. Not for Earth's superweapon. Then it came. A broadcast signal from the enemy flagship got the face of Ezelari. General appeared on every screen aboard the JÖRMUNGANDR. Bright yellow scales. Thin lips twisted into amusement. This system is now under galactic authority. If any surviving Terran elements are hiding in this graveyard, surrender. You will be shown mercy under Coalition law. The crew didn't laugh. They just waited. Varric gave a slow nod. Uncloak. Target all vessels. The stars seemed to blink then. The JÖRMUNGANDR appeared from the void. The Zelari fleet paused dot, and in that pause came fear. The size of the human dreadnought defied expectation. The Zelari had seen blueprints, old reports, but nothing prepared them for the monstrous, elegant shape that slid from the dark, powered by a core forged inside Jupiter's orbit and tested inside black holes. The Zelari fleet scrambled, not too late. Fire. The first railgun strike didn't just pierce the Zelari cruiser, it erased it. What followed was not battle. It was execution. Nova torpedoes, twisted through shields like thread through silk. AI-guided coils tore fighters apart mid-escape. Gravity. Displacers imploded the enemy dreadnought's bridge without harming the hull, just to make a point. Carrier attempting warp. The comms officer yelled. Varric didn't even look up. Not today. One of JÖRMUNGANDR's hidden weapons, a localized singularity cannon, fired with a whisper. The Zelari carrier began to warp. And then it simply folded, crushed into itself. Gone. The entire operation lasted 8 minutes. Silence returned to Elter 9. But this time, it wasn't empty silence. It was terror echoing through deep space, from black box to black box. From survivor to survivor. Captain Varric looked over her shoulder. Send the message. A comms officer nodded. Message? Just 3 words, she replied. The officer waited. Varric's smile returned. We are awake. Across the stars, across hundreds of worlds, the Galactic Coalition received the transmission. And every admiral, general, and diplomat who read it felt the same icy pressure behind their eyes. Earth had waited. Earth had warned them. And now Earth had released JÖRMUNGANDR, and the galaxy would never know peace again. The stars had never looked so still. Inside the command bridge of the alien flagship Drazkar, Grand Strategist Vorel stood frozen, eyes locked on the black void ahead. It wasn't just quiet, it was unnatural. There were no energy ripples, no gravitational echoes, no calm distortions. It was as if the universe itself held its breath. Something was coming. Vorel's crew, the finest minds of the Crithan Dominion, checked their instruments again and again. Still nothing. No fleets, no signals, no engine trails. Just absence. And yet, every being aboard felt it. Captain Rowie Nil whispered, "I don't like this, strategist. It feels wrong." Vorel didn't answer. His tendrils twitched in slow loops, a sign of nervous calculation. Across every sector of the border, the enemy had gone quiet. Human ships had disappeared. No probes, no drones, no counterattacks. Just this eerie, deliberate silence. The last time the galaxy had underestimated silence, Earth had responded with the JÖRMUNGANDR. And now, no one had seen the Titan warship for 17 cycles. The Dominion's high command had mocked Earth's. Fleets humiliated its diplomatic envoys and driven their colonies into the dark. They had thought the human spirit would break. Instead, the humans vanished, and then anomalies began. A Tharnan cruiser detected a sudden spike of antimatter, radiation, but when it turned to investigate, its signal vanished mid-transmission. Vorel's scout ship picked up strange tremors in empty space. Its final log described a ripple in reality. And just 2 cycles ago, a Zarn war relay station hidden inside a black hole's gravitational shadow went offline without a single energy pulse. Now Vorel stood in the center of it all. This sector, this void, was too calm. The Crithan fleet had mobilized half its armada to this zone. Hundreds of ships floated in organized rings, waiting, watching. They were here to bait the humans out, but nothing moved. Open a wide-range scan. "Go deeper," Vorel ordered, voice sharp now. The tech priest responded, already scanning strategist. "But something's interfering." "What?" "The sensors are reading echoes, shadows of mass." "But there's no mass." "It's like the space is folding." The word sent a ripple of tension through the bridge. Folding. Only one Terran weapon was known to fold space without warning. JÖRMUNGANDR. That name had become myth across the stars. Earth's wrath forged into machine. A moving black site. A ghost ship the size of a moon, with weapons older than any alien civilization could comprehend. Officially, it was destroyed 2 years ago by the Dominion's elite, but no one had ever seen its wreckage. And now, just as the galaxy prepared its final siege on the Sol system. Earth had gone dead quiet, and strange phenomena echoed from the void. A junior officer suddenly cried out, "Contact!" Grief. Faint distortion spike at bearing 330. Vorel snapped his head around. Visual. The screens flickered. A low hum passed through the entire hull, like the space itself was groaning. And then, for less than 2 seconds, the sensors captured it. Not a ship, not a fleet, a shadow. A massive form, just barely visible, floating between light and dark. No engines, no signals. Just silent movement, like something ancient had awakened. The shape was unmistakable. Long serpentine body with armored scales larger than most cruisers. And eyes 2 glowing orbs in the darkness, staring back across the cosmos. "Cut power," Vorel barked. "Shut everything down." Too late. One by one, the ships in the Crithan formation began to die. Their cores didn't explode, they imploded. Time dilated. Some reported seeing fragments of their past. In real time, others vanished with no trace. Vorel could only stare as the silence broke not with sound, but with gravity. The space around them warped. It was not war as they knew it. This was judgment. And JÖRMUNGANDR had returned. Not with noise, not with light, but with silence. And that silence screamed louder than anything the galaxy had ever heard. Dot in the darkest corner of the void, with a light of stars bent around nothingness, JÖRMUNGANDR floated like a silent titan. Its armor was cracked. Fires burned deep inside its belly. A trail of wreckage alien ships torn apart drifted behind it like the tail of a comet. But it was still moving, still alive, still terrifying. The enemy fleets were in chaos. More than 30 species had joined hands to destroy the Earth-born ship, and now they were running. Signals of surrender and panic echoed across channels once used to boast. The last grand fleet of the Galactic Council had been shattered, and then the galaxy knew it. Admiral Kara stood inside the command center at JÖRMUNGANDR, covered in dust and blood. Her left arm was bandaged, but her eyes were sharp. "Status report," she asked in a calm voice. "Power at 12%. Shields down. Main. Gun offline. But engines are holding. We're still alive, Admiral," replied Lieutenant Juno. Kira nodded. That was all they needed. Back on the Council homeworld, the leaders of 100 civilizations stared at the live feed in stunned silence. They had laughed at Earth's fleets, called them primitive, called them noisy, emotional, disorganized. They had said humanity's place was below forever a servant species. And now their strongest war machines floated dead across the battlefield, while Earth's monster ship still breathed. JÖRMUNGANDR wasn't just a ship. It was a legend now. The Council's high speaker finally broke the silence. "What do we do now?" No one answered. They had no plan left. The human ship had survived 3 full invasions, 2 black hole traps, and the combined might of the Xyric swarm, the Regalan Flame Fleet, and even the Void Hunters. It had outthought AI navies. It had countered alien tech never before seen. It had done everything except die. Kyra looked up from her display as warning lights blinked again. Not another fleet? No, something else. A single ship. Small, civilian. It was broadcasting a message. Kyra raised an eyebrow and opened the audio. The voice was shaky. "This is the ship Quiet Wind, from the moon colony of Farah 3. We are not part of any military. We've come to honor your ship. The people of Earth, your courage, it has inspired us. We request permission to fly alongside you." Kyra stared at the display. Then came another voice. "Another ship. This is Hope Fire, from Arden. We wish to follow." And then another. And another. Within 20 minutes, the space around JÖRMUNGANDR was filled with civilian crafts. Some tiny, some old, barely holding together. All flying with lights on, signals blinking in support. The symbol of Earth was rising, not by war, but by unity. JÖRMUNGANDR, damaged and bleeding, had become something more than a weapon. It had become a banner, and the galaxy could no longer look away. Inside the shadows of deep space, the last surviving commander of the alien coalition, the Kralok Supreme Admiral, watched this from a hidden station. His sharp, insectoid face trembled with rage. "This isn't possible," he whispered. "That ship should have died." His aide replied, voice trembling, "Sir, it didn't." He turned toward the stars, where Earth hung in the distance. "They've changed the galaxy. One ship, one crew, one planet." Back on JÖRMUNGANDR, Admiral Kyra stood at the bridge's shattered window. The stars blinked quietly beyond. Her crew watched her, tired but proud. She gave a single command: "Let's go home." The engines lit up once more. The ship moved, and behind it, the light of hundreds followed. In that moment, the galaxy understood something they had refused to believe for centuries. The humans were never meant to win with numbers. They were meant to win with spirit. And now, with JÖRMUNGANDR in the lead, The stars were no longer safe, for tyrants. Earth had arrived, and it would never be ignored again. The alarm lights inside the Tazikalian dreadnought flickered in pure panic. Multiple warp signatures. No, wait, it's one. One object, splitting across space-time. I don't understand. The science officer shouted, his voice trembling. High. Admiral Varnax of the Tazik Empire stood rigid, gripping the edge of the command dais, as if the steel could somehow stop what was coming. His 6 crimson eyes blinked rapidly, a biological sign of stress. Impossible. That ship cannot still be pursuing us. We left the battlefield 4 systems ago. And yet the readings were clear. The massive presence of JÖRMUNGANDR was entering. Their system, not through a gate, not through a fold, but by forcing its way directly through the vacuum, bending reality as it arrived. The terror that had gripped so many species was no longer abstract. It was personal now. The Tazik Empire had mocked Earth. They were one of the first to laugh when humanity revealed its so-called Titan-class prototype. Now, they were the ones fleeing through uncharted sectors, attempting to hide in dead stars and abandon war zones. But nothing worked. JÖRMUNGANDR followed them like a ghost, silent and unstoppable. It didn't broadcast. It didn't demand surrender. It simply arrived. And whatever fleet or base was unlucky enough to be in its path vanished. On the bridge, the weapons officer turned, pale green blood seeping from the edge of his eye. Admiral, do we fire? Varnax didn't respond. He stared at the hologram that showed the space outside distorting like boiling oil. As JÖRMUNGANDR phased into view. It wasn't just big. It wasn't just fast. It was angry. And that made all the difference. On board JÖRMUNGANDR, Captain Soraya Vale stood silently. She wasn't smiling. She rarely smiled these days. This is the 7th jump this week, her first officer whispered, awestruck. They keep running. They keep thinking we'll stop, Soraya replied coldly. The bridge of JÖRMUNGANDR was unusually quiet. There were no cheers, no dramatic music, no roaring commands. The crew knew what they were now, a consequence. A reminder, a message. Earth had been mocked, dismissed, blockaded, colonies destroyed, diplomats assassinated. And now, Earth had stopped talking. It sent JÖRMUNGANDR. Instead, it was a floating retaliation, cloaked in void steel and wrapped in quantum weapons that didn't even have names yet. Target confirmed. Tazik Dreadnought Void Howler. Multiple escape pods already launching. The AI reported calmly. They knew we would come, the first officer whispered. No, Soraya replied, stepping forward. They hoped we wouldn't. And then she gave the command, pulse the gravity lance. The space around the enemy ship shattered, not exploded, but shattered like a pane of glass hit by a hammer made of black holes. Time itself seemed to stutter. The dreadnought cracked along its spine and collapsed inward, folding into a single glowing dot, then disappearing forever. Not even the escape pods survived. Not because JÖRMUNGANDR targeted them, but because the ship's very existence was devoured by its own mass inversion. Next system? Soraya asked. The A, I responded. Tazik outpost on Vemri 2. Weak defenses. Civilian transport hub. The crew paused. We're not butchers, the communications officer said softly. Soraya looked over, her voice low and calm. We weren't once. And what did that bring us? No one spoke. She exhaled. Drop a warning beacon. Send coordinates. One message. She tapped the console. This is JÖRMUNGANDR. Evacuate. We are not here for civilians, unless you hide. Behind them, on Vemri 2, the Tazik governor played the message in a loop. Dozens of diplomats from other alien species watched it in silent horror. Some clutched their ceremonial sashes. Others removed rank insignias, hoping to not be identified as former enemies of Earth. How long do we have? One asked. The Tazik governor stared at the red horizon. 3 days, maybe less. And then, without warning, he collapsed to his knees. I told them. I told them Earth would not stay weak. I told them their silence was a scream. No one responded. They all knew it now. That the JÖRMUNGANDR wasn't chasing anyone anymore. That it was cleaning. Up. It wasn't war. Not anymore. It was judgment. In the core of the ship, sealed beneath neutron armor and wrapped in dark matter shielding, a tiny chamber pulsed. Inside it, a human brain augmented, suspended in eternal cold, drifted in silence. No blood, no pain, no voice, but it remembered. It remembered Earth's pain. The attacks, the humiliation, the laughter from the stars. It had once been a man. Now it was the soul of a monster. JÖRMUNGANDR wasn't just a ship. It was vengeance built into code. And it would not stop until the stars that mocked Earth were quiet forever. The stars fell silent. For the first time in galactic history, not a single fleet moved, not a single broadcast echoed. No threats, no prideful speeches, no defiant calls for war. Just silence. The galaxy watched, frozen. At the center of that silence drifted one ship, massive, black, alive with blue glowing veins, pulsing like blood through steel. It was not just a warship. It was something else. Something older. Something terrible. JÖRMUNGANDR had arrived. The Yelvani Empress stood before her high command, her golden crown trembling in her claws. "This is not possible," she whispered. She pointed at the hologram. It showed the remains of her empire's 9th Armada, shattered ships, twisted metal, frozen bodies still glowing with plasma burns. All of it destroyed in under 10 minutes. No warning. No survivors. The admiral beside her, a veteran of 50 wars, spoke in a low voice. It wasn't Earth's fleet that destroyed them. The Empress turned slowly. Then what did? The admiral swallowed hard. They say it was a thing they call JÖRMUNGANDR. Not a fleet, just one ship. Lies, the Empress spat. Propaganda. But then the hologram flickered again. Another feed loaded. It was live. And it showed JÖRMUNGANDR entering the core region of the galaxy. Alone. Unafraid. Every fleet in that sector pulled back without a shot fired. The Council of Elders on the planet Vothrek met in emergency session. The humans must be stopped, growled Elder Reek. Stopped? Asked Elder Liner, pointing a gnarled finger at the screen. How do you stop something that doesn't even answer hails? We've tried logic, diplomacy, even surrender. Elder Reek slammed the table. It's just a ship. Elder Liner's eyes narrowed. Is it? Ships don't vanish into black holes and come back. There was silence again. Even the warlike Scarons were retreating. The Creel colonies, known for their arrogance, had gone completely dark. No one dared to speak JÖRMUNGANDR's name above a whisper anymore. The humans were no longer just part of the galactic community. They had become something else, something untouchable. And everyone remembered how it started. With laughter, with mockery, with Earth's primitive fleets being dismissed. But then, Earth had released JÖRMUNGANDR. Inside the ship, it was quiet. Captain Ray Mercer stood at the command core, her hands resting on the neural interface. She no longer needed to speak. The ship responded to her thoughts, her instincts. She had seen what JÖRMUNGANDR could do. The ship could bend space, distort mass, fire beams of compressed gravity, and hack enemy AI with whispers of coded death. Its hull healed itself, regrew, reformed. It absorbed enemy fire like rain, and it remembered. JÖRMUNGANDR was built not just with metal and quantum code, but with memory. It remembered every insult hurled at humanity, every colony bombed, every civilian ship targeted. Every ambassador's humiliated. It had one purpose: to show the galaxy what happened when humanity stopped holding back. Fleet Command of the Drek Dominion tried one last move. They launched everything. 4,000 ships, drone clouds, anti-reality bombs, phase fracture torpedoes. All of it at JÖRMUNGANDR. The result? Not even a dent. JÖRMUNGANDR bent space in a full radius, making the weapons loop back and strike the Drek's own ships. The Dominion fleet was gone in less than 3 minutes. The humans did not even respond with words. The galaxy began calling it the ship that silenced the stars. Rumors spread quickly now. Some said the ship was alive. Others said it was fused with a dying god. One theory claimed the humans had unlocked an ancient weapon buried under their ice moon and rebuilt it. But one fact was clear: no civilization dared approach Earth anymore. Borders were redrawn without war. Trade routes shifted around human systems. The Galactic Archive updated the universal warning: avoid Sector Sol. Do not engage human vessels. Do not speak of JÖRMUNGANDR. But the humans said nothing. They didn't celebrate. They didn't threaten. They just let the silence spread. In the remains of the fallen Zarnak Empire, one young survivor looked up at the stars. He asked his elder, "Why did they do it?" The elder sighed. "Because we left." He tapped the boy's chest. And the humans, they don't forget. The child looked at the stars again. And now he understood why they were so quiet.